Number 11 on the Open Doors World Watch list is India. Joining us to talk about what is fueling persecution in the world's largest democracy is Joseph D'Souza. He is Bishop of Good Shepherd Church and a human rights advocate who hails from the beautiful nation of India. Thank you so much for joining us again on the broadcast. Why is India so high up on the list, number 11?
I think we've had a very bad year in India.
2017 specifically was tough.
Yeah, 2017 was tough. And it's probably on the list because of the increased attacks at the local level from various subsets of the right-wing Hindu groups. And the incidents of attacks and persecution have increased in the last year.
What was it about the year 2017 that made it all the more difficult for believers in India?
There has been, it's not just related to the Christians,
Sure.
It's related also to the Muslims and Dalits and now also Hindus. There has been an increase in terms of violence across the nation in the last couple of years. Cow slaughter, and all of the lynchings and everything else. And then, of course, the propaganda that continues to go on, which is absolutely not correct, that Christians are involved in false and fraudulent conversions. Nothing of that sort is happening, and if it's happening, by now they should have been able to catch and prosecute, given all of the anti-conversion laws that are in the country, in the north. But the propaganda that somehow Christians are working against India and against the interests of India in trying to be Christians is what is propelling this. And a lack of control on these groups that seem to commit crimes or attack minorities with impunity because they think, oh, our party is in power, so we can go ahead and do what we want to do.
And speaking of that, what is the government doing to prevent these attacks, to stop the persecution against Christians, but also minority faiths like the Muslim community? What are they doing?
At the central level, and that's where we have to be careful, this is not a state-condoned or state-organized persecution. This is happening at the local levels. So when a delegation went to the Home Minister recently because of the attacks during the pre-Christmas season and the carol singing, and a group of seminarians were attacked and accused of conversions, etc. And there was real worry that, and normally during the Christmas season, the attacks increase. So a whole delegation went to the Home Minister. And the Home Minister agreed, and this is the first time, and that sort of reflects what's going on. Advisory was given by the Home Minister to all of the state governments, it's not happened before, to make sure there's no anti-Christian violence during the Christmas season. So they want to stop it, but it's not getting stopped unless there is prosecution of the perpetrators of persecution and action is taken against these guys who engage in violence or threaten schools and say, you have to put a Hindu image in a Christian school, and all of these direct, overt pressures that are being put out. And it's not spread in the same way across India. A lot of this is going on in North India.
Okay. So your constitution guarantees religious freedom, but authorities don't seem to like it when Christians share their faith with Hindus. Why is conversion such a controversial issue?
There are definitely historical reasons for this. And fortunately or unfortunately, the colonial era has contributed to this.
Do they see Christianity as a foreign religion?
The colonial hangover is still there. And in my dialogue with people who are friendly to us, want to help us, I can see that they still have the hangover, that there is some kind of a foreign agenda. There's some kind of an external agenda financed from abroad that wants to convert people. What we are trying to get them to see is, no, the Constitution guarantees us the right to be Christian. Christians, and to be Christians means we can practice and we can propagate, and we are giving the assurances. In a meeting with the public meeting with the Home Minister, we gave a categorical assurance that we will not engage in any forced and fraudulent conversions, and if you find them, you please come to us. At the same time, we said we cannot neglect our right to be Christians, and if people come to us and they want to embrace our faith, free will, we have to receive them. Sure. That's what Christ asks us to do.
How much of this also the mentality that to be Indian, some of our viewers may not know this, but the majority of India are Hindus. The sense that if you are an Indian, it automatically means that you are Hindu. The sort of nationalistic fervor, is that rising in the country?
There is this group that has a particular interpretation of what Hinduism is. It doesn't represent a majority of the Hindus. We have to be very careful.
Sure.
But there is this group who believes that Christianity is an alien religion, and so confuse it with national identity. But we have been there in the country for 2,000 years, and so we are not as if we just came 100 years ago or 200 years ago. And so this is contributing, and the propaganda and the indoctrination surrounding that, somehow that Christians cannot, are not part of this soil, is not correct, because we are all of the same race, and we are as nationalistic as a Hindu or as a Muslim or as anybody else. So using this word patriotic Indians and all, Indian Christian patriotism is not next to anybody else's patriotism.
Sure.
And so we feel we have to appeal, because right now it has degenerated into, it was some anti-Muslim violence, violence against Dalits, and violence against Christians. Now it has become a fight among the Hindus themselves. They are now saying, who gave you the right to say you represent Hinduism and I don't have the right to represent what the Hindus are? Yeah. And according to me, Indians, Christian Indians and Muslim Indians, they are part of India. So you have this huge debate going on right now within the larger Hindu society itself. But Hindu scholars, writers are also getting killed and assassinated in this rising climate of violence. And that is a worrying thing for all of us.
As part of your work at the All India Christian Council, for many, many years you have advocated social justice and freedom for what is known as the Dalit community, the so-called untouchables in India. Give us an update. What is God doing amongst the Dalits, amongst the so-called untouchables?
I think the part of the movement that we are, 25 years, we have come a long way. Yeah. And as I said that time, and I continue to say, that India cannot continue with the caste system. And India has to find, larger India has to find, all of the religions have to find, how do we get caste system within our religion out and stop the oppression of the Dalits. And while many Dalits have found freedom and dignity through Christian work in education and spiritual work and other kinds of things, the problem is not over. And in fact, in the last couple of years, you probably followed, there has been the Dalit uprising in Gujarat, which is a very significant uprising led by a young youth called Jignesh Mavani. He contested recently in the election, he's got elected. And there are other OBC castes that are revolting against being left out. And then in the new year, we have had the eruption of major caste Dalit revolt in Maharashtra, and a closing down of the whole city of Mumbai and Maharashtra, which has not happened for 20, 30 years. And really, Dalits doing what they should not, getting involved in violence in terms of destruction of public property. Sure. So the issue is there, and unfortunately, politicians of all backgrounds try to play the caste card for winning. But Dalit uprising is, the battle is not yet over. This time, though, as compared to 20 years ago, I see a lot more hope, because the guys who are revolting are the youth. Finally, you know that India has close to 75% population under the age of 35. and these disenfranchised Dalits and low caste and all global media, and they have a voice through social media and all. So they are now taking the battle right up front. They even tried to have a rally of all forces, young people in New Delhi the other day, which was banned, but they still were able to bring. So this is a new moment, and we have to watch this space as to how these young, educated Dalits and outcast, low caste, or whatever, OBCs, find their voice and try to bring a change in the system. And they're all asking for allegiance to the Constitution.
In the midst of all these challenges, is the church growing, still growing?
The church has to grow in this kind of conflict. And you and I know that persecution has never stopped the growth of the church. In fact, when we are attacked, we are persecuted, we become stronger, and the faith of our North Indian brothers and sisters has to be seen, to be believed, and how they keep witnessing, not because of an external agenda. They have no foreign funding, nothing. They're local people. Yes, they're standing strong, and they're not recanting. I mean, there's such a pressure to recant, to change, etc. They did not recant when the Kandamal violence took place, massive violence. I mean, community after community stayed true to Christ. And I think this is what India and the world has to understand as well, that when we talk about growth or whatever in terms of the church, that this is a spiritual dynamic versus a social, economic, or a colonial kind of conversion taking place. That's totally not happening anymore.
Okay, terrific. We will have to leave it there. As always, Dr. D'Souza, pleasure to have you back on the broadcast.
Welcome.